Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, hear what it would mean to move Arizona out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Also tonight, we'll speak with the interim director of the Valley's transit system, and we'll learn about a new computer coding school in downtown Phoenix. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. An effort to reform the state's pension system for police officers and firefighters was introduced today at the Capitol. Legislation calls for splitting the cost of police and fire pensions between the employee and city, capping pensions at $110,000 a year, and increasing the amount of time on the job before retirement. The plan would need voter approval. Republican Senator Debbie Lesko is the sponsor.
Pension costs are escalating. Cities can't afford to hire new police and firefighters, and pension debts are piling up. The system needs to be fixed.
Doing nothing in this situation is simply not an option. PSPRS is not solvent, and it's in critical need of reform. This legislation ensures that we control our own destiny rather than having a crisis dictate our future.
This was a true collaborative process, and I think that we will all be able to be very pleased with the outcome of this as we see the restoration of this particular retirement system to viability for long-lasting security and safety for our firefighters and our police officers, and indeed for the citizens of the state of Arizona, who will also be protected because they would have had the burdens on them.
The legislation is co-sponsored by all 30 state senators and a majority in the House, though the House is reportedly working on a competing pension reform plan. And newly sworn in Corporation Commissioner Andy Tobin says he will not be voting on issues involving Solar City, a company that installs rooftop solar panels. The reason? Tobin's son-in-law works for Solar City. Tobin replaced Susan Bittersmith on the commission after Bittersmith resigned amid conflict of interest accusations. Governor Doug Ducey is working with members of the state's congressional delegation to move Arizona out of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which the governor says is too big and overburdened. Critics see the move as an attempt to remove the state from what conservatives perceive as a liberal jurisdiction. Here now to talk about the Ninth Circuit and the possibilities of such a move is Paul Eckstein, a partner in the Phoenix law firm of Perkins Coie. Good to see you again.
Good evening.
Thanks for being here. What is the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals?
The Court of Appeals is an intermediate court between district courts, which are trial courts, and the Supreme Court of the United States. So when someone appeals from a district court decision, that person appeals to a Court of Appeals that is close to, geographically, the district court. So for Arizona, we're in a circuit called the Ninth Circuit. There are 11 numbered circuits in the United States, plus a circuit called the Federal Circuit. Well, and plus the DC Circuit as well. So 13 circuits.
So the Ninth Circuit, we're in it because we are close to San Francisco, correct? That's where the base of the Ninth is?
Well, that is the headquarters of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Arizona's been in the Ninth Circuit since statehood, so we've been in it over 100 years. But the Ninth Circuit hears arguments in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, occasionally in Phoenix, but those are the three main places that arguments are made.
How many judges are in the Ninth Circuit, and how do they handle cases?
There's a total of 44 judges, 29 of whom are active judges. The rest are what are called senior judges. A judge may sit as long as the judge is able to and wants to, and hear a reduced load. After that judge reaches a certain number of years of service and age.
And as far as, you mentioned California, Arizona, obviously.
Yes, I'll tell you. The states are Arizona, Nevada, California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Alaska, Hawaii, Guam, and the Northern Marianas.
Okay, with that in mind, is it generally considered that the Ninth Circuit is either the biggest out there, circuit court, and or the busiest?
It is both. The Ninth Circuit is biggest in geography. It is the largest by number of judges, 29 active judges, whereas the next largest district has 15. And in terms of caseload, it certainly is the busiest.
And the governor mentioned that when he announced that he wanted to get Arizona out of the Ninth Circuit. The caseload was too big, the backlog was too big. Valid concerns?
I don't think his concerns as expressed are valid, but if they were valid, there's a simple way to split the circuit. That's only happened twice in the history of the United States. Most recently, the Fifth Circuit, which is Texas and other southern states, was split, I think, 35 years ago, to create an 11th Circuit with Georgia, Florida, and perhaps South Carolina.
Why?
But the way you would deal with it, that I don't think would make Governor Ducey very happy, would be to split California. California has 4 judicial districts: the Central, Southern, Middle, Central District, Southern District, and the Northern District. So one way to do this would be to put Arizona with the Southern and Central districts of California, with Hawaii, Guam, and the Marianas. Wherever you put California, it's going to be the biggest district with the most judges and the busiest calendar if you don't split it.
Okay, but would it also be the most overturned? The governor called it the most overturned and overburdened in the U.S. Is he correct?
Well, he cited 2010 data, and there are years where the Ninth Circuit is the most overturned and the most affirmed because it sends the most cases to the Supreme Court. I don't think it's overburdened because it has more judges. The average time from when you file the appeal to when the briefs are filed and when you get oral argument and when you get a decision is longer than some, like the First Circuit or the Second Circuit, are much smaller and produce opinions much more quickly. But it's not the slowest by any means.
Interesting. Representative Salmon calls it an ultra-liberal jurisdiction. Do you have a point?
Well, where you stand depends on where you sit. And from my perspective, in my chair, I don't view it that way. There are more judges who were appointed by Democratic presidents, 19 to 9 appointed by Republican presidents. I think it's a balanced court. There are very conservative judges. Judge Kaczynski, who was the chief judge the last time in the early 2000s when Senator Kyle and others tried to split the circuit, was very opposed to it. And Chief Judge Wallace, who was the chief judge and appointed by Nixon, I believe, was also opposed to it. So many of the judges who were appointed by Republican presidents have expressed their opposition and did in the past to a splitting of the circuit. There were only 2 judges the last time around on the Ninth Circuit who said they favored a split. All the rest opposed it.
So if the attempt is made to split it in half, maybe even more parts than, or maybe create a brand new circuit and put Arizona into this one with, I think the talk was, let's make it with New Mexico and Colorado, Nevada, and in Wyoming, whatever the case may be. Making a new circuit, splitting the Ninth, what does it entail? What needs to be done?
Well, it would be very expensive to do that, number one. The Judiciary Committee would consider a bill, pass the bill, would go to the House. If it passed, it would be presented to the President, and the President would look at it and have the opportunity to veto it. I would assume if there were a Democratic president, there would be a veto, but maybe whoever is elected after President Obama would view it differently.
How often do these, you mentioned what happened in Texas, how often do these kinds of things happen?
Well, once in the last 30 years and once before that in the history of the country.
And that's it, huh?
That's it.
So is this something that is just a little bully pulpit kind of a thing, or is there a realistic chance something like this could happen?
Oh, I think with a Republican Congress, Republicans holding both the House and the Senate and the presidency, it could happen. But I think there's going to be plenty of opposition. Senator Feinstein from California opposed it vigorously the last time, and I would think she would again. And one senior senator opposing something like this can stall it for a long time.
All right. Interesting stuff. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Former Mesa Mayor Scott Smith has been hired to take over Valley Metro, the agency that oversees the Phoenix area's transit system. This after the previous executive resigned amid questions over travel and other expenses. Here now is Valley Metro interim CEO Scott Smith.
Still sounds strange.
Does it sound? It's your second day on the job.
Second day
right?
on the job, so thank you for having me in here.
What is your role? What do you do?
Well, I run a very large and successful organization on an interim basis. There's no doubt that Valley Metro has gone through some tough times. I'm sure you're willing to ask me about that, and that's not a secret. And the boards of directors, the two boards that run Valley Metro, the combined entities, reached out and asked me to come and hopefully provide some stability while we transition into some permanent leadership. There's some humps we got to get over and some settling down we need to do, but we also need to stay the course. And that's what I've been brought in to do as a CEO. And
you were the former mayor of Mesa, obviously ran for governor. You've got a lot of political in development field as well before your political.
Well, yeah, people forget that before I got in politics and became mayor of Mesa, I had a 30-year business experience. I'm a CPA and attorney, was an auditor, actually was sort of a turnaround a specialist, and was actually hired at one time by a board of directors in a development company to come in because the company was under investigation by the FBI.
So is that why why are you qualified? Because people say he's mayor, loved him, hated him, whatever as a mayor, but what's he doing with this job?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. It's about leadership. A CEO is a leader of an organization, not the main technician, but the leader. A CEO creates the vision, brings people together to accomplish a goal and objective. And I think both through my private experience and turnaround and once again handling very serious situations, but also in public life. Remember, as mayor, we planned, financed, and built the 3-mile extension of the light rail through downtown Mesa. So I'm very familiar with how that works. And I think the combination of that leadership, the contacts in Washington, the board believed, and I believe that I can provide that kind of experience and knowledge, but also the calming influence that can help us get to a permanent director.
And we're talking calming influence after the previous CEO, Stephen Banta. We're talking about expenditure problems, travel problems. From where you sit, your plans, interim, we don't know how long, by the way, how long are you interested in this job?
Well, it's not whether I'm interested. I said I would stay on long enough until we can get some stability and get a new leader. Don't know how long that will last. I tell people I could be here 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. We don't know what it'll take. We want to make sure that we hire the right person. We provide the right kind of leadership because Valley Metro deserves that kind of leadership.
And the previous leadership, again, I think there's a criminal investigation with the Attorney General. Do you know anything about that? Do you know about the audit that Phoenix is supposedly having regarding expense accounts and such?
Well, there's a couple, 3 audits that are ongoing. I walked into the middle of that, and part of, I think, one reason I'm there is because I've had the experience with those. I don't know what those audits will say. Whatever they say, we're going to take the criticisms and the findings, and if there's something that's broken, we're going to fix it. If there's a gap in the controls, we're going to plug it. And we're going to move on to build an organization that gets beyond those problems. There's nothing that I believe that'll come out in those audits that isn't fixable, and we're going to do that.
Has transparency, you've been on the job 2 days now, so what have you done as far as transparency? What have you done as far as oversight of expense? I mean, goodness gracious, are we going to have a better idea of what people are doing out there?
Oh, I think we will. And you know, right now in 2 days, I think I just found where the bathroom is this afternoon. You know, it was hard for 2 days to not know that. But no, the idea is that we are totally opened up. One of the things I'm doing right now is to really find out what is going on, to get to know the organization, get to know the lay of the land. I'll take the findings of those audits from professionals who are looking at the very details, and we will create a plan that will fix the problems, that will restore public confidence. That's the most important thing. We had over 70 million riders in our system last year. People don't realize how big our transit system is. 56 million on the bus, 14 million on the train, and a couple million through Dial-A-Ride and others. This is a big system that has done some incredible things. They've done more things right than the few bumps in the road. They have created a system that has been built under budget, usually before time. They operate a very good system. There's great people at Valley Metro. We've got to get them a system and a control system to where the public has the confidence that the things they are doing are both legitimate, watched, and that they're worthy of their trust, and we'll get them there.
So you think increased oversight not only is necessary, but is going to happen?
Well, of course it's going to happen. It has to happen because there's been a violation of the public trust. Whenever you have that, you can't turn a blind eye to it. You have to look deeply and be honest. And I've told the staff so far, whatever comes out, if there are gaps, we're not going to overlook them. Our number one priority is to gain the trust of those people we serve. Elected officials, cities, employees, contractors, those who ride the system, but more importantly, those who entrusted us, the voters of Maricopa County, who entrusted us with literally billions of dollars of their money to build and run a system that serves the public, and we're going to get there.
And as a former mayor, you understand what public perception, the impact of that sort of thing. Has Valley Metro, how much has Valley Metro been harmed by this?
There's no doubt it's taken a hit. There's no doubt that something as high profile as that, when you have this kind of event, that people begin to wonder: was this a rogue employee with a single situation, or is this systemic? We're going to find out, and it's up to us to be open and honest about what happened, and to say what we're going to do to fix that. And we'll find out in the next few weeks when we get those audit reports.
Separate and apart from those sorts of things, and again, we're talking travel expenses and all sorts of expenses that were curious to say the least, and all sorts of accusations that they weren't on the up and up. Aside from all of that, biggest issue facing Valley Metro?
I think number one, we have several big projects. We have the expansion of light rail, the expansion of bus service. Phoenix just passed. The fourth time Arizona voters, Maricopa County voters, have gone to the ballot to support transit, a huge transit with Prop 104. We have to take those projects and fast track them. We have to expand service and get better at service, and we have to do it quickly and in a way that gains confidence. With this cloud hanging over us, we'll get out from under this cloud. I have a total confidence in the employees and the management of Valley Metro that we'll work through this situation, that people will regain the confidence. People will look at Valley Metro and see the great things that it has done, and have confidence in its ability to provide those great services going forward.
All right. Good to see you again. Thanks
Good
for
seeing
joining
you.
us.
Thanks for asking me.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Technology and Innovation looks at Galvanize, a Denver-based computer coding school that plans to open in the downtown Phoenix warehouse district later this year. Jim Dieters is the CEO of Galvanize, and he joins us right now. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Great to be here.
What is Galvanize Coding School? What is this?
Galvanize is a 21st century school for anyone with ambition and aptitude to get the skills and access they need to be an entrepreneur, software engineer, or data scientist.
So, and when we're talking software engineer and data scientist, what does that mean?
People that write codes. So you can, in the 21st century, the most important jobs, those that are the most upwardly mobile, as we kind of like to say, you either tell the computer what to do, or computers are going to be telling you what to do. So these are the folks that are building these amazing applications on mobile apps or beautiful websites. And as we like to say today, every industry now is a tech industry.
And as far as the education is concerned, you described it as an immersive education. What does that mean?
Correct. One of the things we challenge about traditional education is our mindset with the old version of education is we separated academia from industry. In our version of education, we believe that the environment should look the same. Working and learning should be combined, and industry should be part of the learning process. They are the stakeholder for ultimately the human capital and the talent to be deployed. So we build these beautiful campuses where you have hundreds of entrepreneurs, you have big companies like IBM, you have other companies like Allstate, all working and learning in one beautiful melting pot.
Is it a classroom environment? Are there labs? How's that work?
There's a little of everything. So the old way, again, was much more passive style of learning, where a professor or expert would lecture you in a classroom and you would sit and absorb and learn. Ours, there are, of course, lectures where you will teach theory, but most of the time you're in a lab working in a paired programming methodology. So programming today is not what we used to think it is. Programming is a creative, resourceful process now, where the engineers that can bring a business insight to life must be as close to the business ideas as possible. So we do have these paired programming labs that are set up and working inside of a space where IBM will have a Bluemix Garage, their cloud computing platform, next door.
Interesting. Okay, how many students you plan on having here?
How many students in Phoenix? Well, we'll be announcing our classes coming up soon. As we ramp up fully, we should be teaching probably anywhere from about 100 to 300 students per year out of this campus. And when we announced it, Allstate committed to be sponsoring 100 to 150 of those students in the first 3 years.
And when you say sponsoring, what does that mean?
That means they'll be committing to employing 100 to 150 of these software developers that come out of the program.
6-month program, correct, for students?
The what we call the full stack software immersive, that's a 6-month program. The data science program, as well as the data engineering program, are both 12 weeks.
Okay, $21,000 I heard for tuition for this?
For the 6-month full stack program.
And what kind of graduation rates do you have?
So that program has a 97% placement rate. So that is actual job placement within 3 months of graduation, and the starting salary is $77,000.
That's not bad.
It's not
That's
bad.
not a bad starting
It's
salary.
even better in data science. The starting salary in the data science program is $114,000.
The campus is going to be in the Phoenix Warehouse District, south of Bank One Ballpark, and the arena down there. Why there?
515 East Grant. We believe that the creative generation, this new generation, is an urban phenomenon, and that's why you see ASU and others coming downtown while we're sitting downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So we do believe that the creative class wants to be in the urban centers, including in Denver and south of Market, San Francisco, and in downtown Phoenix.
We just saw some renderings. Is this going to be a new building or an old warehouse restored?
This is going to be an old warehouse that will be restored.
Okay, and it sounds as though there's going to be like a co-working space situation going on here. Was that something that you referred to earlier? Or
Correct. That's the immersive part. That's really the aligning industry and education, learning into the same context. So it will be a space. So think of it like a health club for nerds and entrepreneurs. So it's like a membership. Instead of working out your muscles, you pay a membership fee where you can get a la carte access on demand to build a company and the skill sets. So our theory is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you should go build a company. The best way to do that is to learn from peers and other mentors and have the a la carte on-demand access to the competencies you need. How to raise money, how to do inbound marketing strategies, how to do product management. So think about it as a membership learning club, a retail model of education.
And I noticed there's a web-based physical therapy firm that's going to be across the street. So how does that work?
Well, we do like to be deeply ingrained in the people that have come before that are great leaders that have built great companies here. Again, this is part of those mentors. And Heidi and Brad Janenga are two great entrepreneurs here that created a company called WebPT that will be our sister company, our sister companion in this 110,000 square foot warehouse.
Last question before you go. What's the age range? I mean, do you take junior high school, college, older dudes? I mean, who are you taking?
We've taken everyone from folks right out of high school at 17 to women who want to enter the workforce in their late 50s.
Okay, so
and
it's
everything in between.
not necessarily age specific. It's if you're interested.
Doesn't age specific, gender specific. We don't care of your background. We've had ex-poker players, ex-cello players. We believe we're in a skills-based economy, and there's a craft way to deliver those skills.
Well, all right. Well, welcome to Phoenix. Jim Dieters, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And Wednesday on Arizona Horizon, we'll talk about the wisdom of disparaging California's economy when compared to Arizona. And we'll have our weekly legislative update with the Arizona Capitol Times. It's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.